Good morning once again, class. So up till now, we have learnt about, we were doing the Mauryan Empire, and we have learnt about the literary and the archaeological sources from which we learn about the history of the Mauryans, their administration, the extent of the empire, the three great kings. Now, when we were talking about the sources, in literary sources, the first one, that is Arthashastra of Kautilya. Then we learned from Indica. Now, then the archaeological sources were the edicts of Ashok, which talk about the Mauryan Empire, the Sachi Stup. Then we learnt about the Mauryan Empire as such, and as a whole, we learnt about the founder of the Mauryan Empire, Chandragupta Maurya, his son Bindusar. Then Bindusar's son Ashoka, I told you that he was not in line to ascend the throne, but then he had all his half brothers killed except for one of his real brother, whom he encouraged to become a monk. Now, then we see his ascension to Ashoka's ascension to the throne was already embroiled in violence. Now, with the Kaling War, that violence with which he had ascended to the throne must have already been playing on his mind, and before that, before the Kalinga War also, he must have fought different wars over there. Here we also come to know that how he Ashoka quelled revolt. So he was a very brave fighter, and he led his army to victories. And Kaling was one place, one kingdom which even Chandragupta and Bindusar were not able to win. So with the Kaling War, so there were a lot of losses on both the sides, both on the sides of the Kaling people and Ashok also. But then the consequences of this particular war, the Kaling War, were tremendous. We learned that how it changed the destiny of King Ashok. We learned, children, that the death and destruction caused by the Kaling War brought about a great change in the personal and political life of Ashok. He abandoned the policy of conquest by force, very important, please remember Bahri Ghosh, and ambition of victory in all directions, Digvijay, and embraced the policy of Dharma Ghosh. Second effect was Kaling changed Ashok's personal life. He stopped hunting and eating meat and abandoned the life of luxury. Being a king, he enjoyed a life of luxury, but all that he gave up. He also turned to Buddhism and declared Buddhism as the state religion. Then the prisoners of war from not just Kaling War, the other wars also which he had fought, they were used for agricultural work. They were not punished, they were not kept hungry or beaten up, but they were used for some good constructive work. This resulted in an increase in production and brought about economic prosperity in his empire. Now, on account of abandonment of war, there was a decline in military preparedness and efficiency. So maybe this was, again, yesterday also I told you, this was one of the reasons why the later kings could not maintain a better army. So if you need to defend your kingdom against foreign aggressions, then your army needs to be prepared at all points of time. Then we saw the extent of Ashok's empire. The map given over here tells the complete story, how huge the Mauryan Empire was. Then we learnt about the Mauryan administration, the pan-Indian character. I told you, pan-Indian character is that the particular administration or the particular kingdom had traditions and characteristics that was taken from all the regions of the nation or India. Then we learnt about the administration. Okay, there were hardly any changes. Administration main was divided into two parts, civil and military. Now, in civil administration, the central government, we had the central government and the provincial government. Now, in the there was Ashok did not make a single change in the provincial government, but he did make a few changes in the running of the central government after the Kaling War. So all this we had taken up yesterday and read it in detail. I hope you gave it a thorough reading. In provincial government, the only difference which came during Ashok's rule was the addition of Kaling as the 5th province with Toshali as the capital. Then we learned about the district administration, how the provinces were divided into districts called Janpads, and they were looked after by Pradeshika, Rajuka and Yukta. Then administration of cities, like we have municipal councils and committees. Similarly, they had in the Mauryan Empire, emperors also made sure that there was a separate government for looking into the welfare of the cities. Then we learned about the revenue system, 2 kinds of taxes, namely Bali and Bhag. Okay, Bali was a religious tribute, where Bhag was levied on agricultural produce and cattle at the rate of 1/6. Then we learned about how extensive the spy system was during the Mauryan rules. Now children, there was just not one spy looking into a particular matter, but there were a number of spies keeping an eye on each other as well. So this is how the kings were always well informed. Then we learnt about the military administration, how the military had its own administration and was a smooth running unit. Now in this video we'll take up Ashok's Dhamma, and with that we come to the end of the chapter. After the Kaling War, Ashok became the people's king. He embraced Buddhism but did not impose it on his subjects. So he did not impose Buddhism on his subjects. Some were Jains, some were Hindus or Muslims, it was up to them. He wanted his subjects to follow such a dham that may be based on the unifying principles of all major religions of the world. That the teachings or the good points or the important points of all the religions of the world were induced or included in the Dhamma. The Dhamma as described in Ashok's edicts is not a religion or religious system but a moral law, a common code of conduct or an ethical order which is a common meeting ground of all religions. Now, principles of Dhamma. Ashok's Dhamma has the following salient points: respect to elders and love to children, ahimsa or non-violence, good deeds or good karma would give happiness to man in the next birth. He taught people to respect all religions. He disapproved empty rituals. So we have already discussed that after the Kaling War, he stopped the sacrificing or banned the sacrificing of animals for religious rituals. So the principles of Dhamma were not very difficult to follow given the mindset of a man. If you were a good person, then all these things came naturally to you. Now, impact of Dhamma on Ashok's imperial policy, that is royal policy or the main policy. Religious unity. People belonging to different religion followed their emperor's policy of religious tolerance, because Ashok did not force his religion, that is Buddhism, on the others. The others also, his subject also, the people in his kingdom also learned to tolerate other religions. Moral values. People under the influence of Dhamma started living a moral life. Crime and sinning was negligent. End of crimes. The policy of ahimsa did have a great moral impact on people. Thefts, crimes and other such activities almost came to an end. So, negligent is almost came to an end. Not there. Public welfare. With the policy of conquest and wars having come to an end, Ashok's Dhamma helped officials to undertake public welfare and public work schemes. This resulted in prosperity and helped people to lead a peaceful life. So all the Dhammas which were introduced by Ashok helped the people of his kingdom live a peaceful and prosperous life. So with this we have come to the end of the chapter. Please, the terms to remember should be remembered by heart. Shortly we will post the written work for the chapter as well. Till that time, children, whatever you have not understood, please note it down or mark it somewhere, and we'll discuss it when the school reopens. Till that time, stay safe. God bless you.